In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to configure network settings on a DXi system. Although a DXi 6800 is used in this video, these steps can be applied to any DXi system with 2.3 and later software. Note that for the DXi V-Series systems with 2.3 software, refer to the DXi V-Series Configuring Network Settings video for details on configuring network settings on a DXi virtual appliance. In this demonstration, I'm going to cover IP address settings, bonding modes, jumbo frames, VLAN tagging, NAT addresses, and more. For step-by-step procedures, refer to the Installation and Configuration Guide for your DXi system. For information on how to modify network settings after the DXi system has been installed, refer to the User's Guide or online help for your DXi system. Make sure to work with your network administrator when configuring network settings on your DXi system. In this network configuration example, the DXi 6800 hardware has just been installed and powered on. I'm going to configure network settings using the Getting Started wizard, which displays after the system has been powered on for the first time. These settings can be modified at any time in the future using the network page available from the configuration menu. In the Getting Started wizard, after I accept the license agreement, the Configure Network Settings page displays. In the General section, I can configure or modify the system hostname, default gateway, DNS suffix search list, and DNS IP addresses. I need to enter all of this information since I'm configuring this system for the first time. In the IP address configuration section, I can configure bonded interfaces and select bonding modes. You may need to click the Show link to display the current configuration. Bonding allows you to create bonded interfaces consisting of 2 or more physical ports of the same link speed. This aggregates multiple ports into a single group, effectively combining the bandwidth into a single connection. Bonding also provides fault tolerance. You can lose one physical connection from the bond and still maintain connectivity. By default, the 3 1 gigabit Ethernet ports are bonded on the system. They display as bond 0. The 2 10 gigabit Ethernet ports are not bonded by default. You can only bond ports of the same link speed. Bonding 1 gigabit Ethernet and 10 gigabit Ethernet is not supported. I now need to select a bonding mode for the bond 0 interface. The available modes are Active Backup, LACP, and Round Robin. I'm going to select the Round Robin mode for this system. If I had selected LACP mode bonding, I would need to verify that the switch connected to the DXi is configured to support LACP. If the switch is not configured, it could lose connectivity to the DXi. For more information about configuring bonding modes, refer to the User's Guide for your DXi system. To temporarily save your changes, click Update. After clicking Update, you'll notice an Action Required message at the top of the page. This indicates that the changes that I have made have not yet been applied to the system. They will be applied when I complete all the steps in the Getting Started wizard. The Interface Details table displays information about each interface, including the bonding mode, link speed, and link status. The table also allows you to configure jumbo frames. Jumbo frames are Ethernet frames with more than 1,500 bytes of payload. Conventionally, jumbo frames can carry up to 9,000 bytes. Network administrators configure jumbo frames to send more data payload in a single frame for greater transmission speeds. If your environment requires you to enable jumbo frames for the system, change the frame size from 1,500 to 9,000. I only want to configure the standard frame size of 1,500 for this system, so I will leave the settings at 1,500. When configuring jumbo frames and other network settings, make sure that the Ethernet switch that is connected to the DXi is configured properly. For example, if I set the MTU size to 9,000 on these interfaces on the DXi, the Ethernet switch connected to the DXi should also be set to 9,000. In the IP address table section, you can add one or more IP address subnets to an interface, configure VLAN tags, a NAT address, and select which traffic types are allowed for each interface. I want to add a static IP address to the bonded interface. To do this, I'm going to select the Bond 0 interface and then enter my IP address information. A maximum of 10 IP addresses are allowed per interface. All of the IP addresses in the IP address table, added or modified, must be valid and unique and must have a valid gateway and netmask. I can also configure VLAN tag IDs in this table. So what is a VLAN or virtual local area network? A VLAN is used to segment a physical network into smaller broadcast domains or segments. Network administrators may want to configure VLANs to relieve network congestion, increase bandwidth, or create secure network segments. Notice the checkbox to the left of the VLAN tag ID box. To enable VLAN tagging for an interface, I must select this box and then enter a VLAN tag ID. I don't want to configure a VLAN for this interface, so I'm going to skip this setting. Make sure to consult with your network administrator for the appropriate VLAN tag ID information. Next to the VLAN ID information, you can see an external host checkbox. Select this checkbox to associate this interface's IP address with the host name of the system. The DXi system will then be identified by this IP address externally. This particular DXi needs to be identified by this IP address externally, so I'll make sure this is selected. I can also configure a network address translation or NAT IP address for the interface. I would need to configure a NAT IP address only if this system will be configured as a replication target and replication will be performed across a public network and both source and target systems are located behind NAT-enabled routers. The router that connects the DXi to the internet performs network address translation. This maps the IP address of the DXi to the NAT IP address, providing a valid replication interface for a source DXi. I am going to skip this section also since I don't need to configure a NAT IP address for this system. If I wanted to designate a specific traffic type for this interface, I can select one of the following 4 options: Management, Replication, Data, and Any. I want to allow all traffic types for this interface, so I'm going to leave Any selected. When selecting the allowed traffic types, at least one interface subnet must allow management traffic. And if replication is configured on the DXi, I would need to configure at least one interface to allow replication traffic. Again, to temporarily save changes, click Update. Next up is the Routing Details section. Click Show to display the section. Some network configurations require that you specify routing details for an interface. Refer to the user's guide for information and examples on configuring interface routing. The Ethernet port Backpanel Locations section at the bottom of the page shows a back view of the system node. This view shows the Ethernet port locations, bonding configurations, and connection status. Ports that are bonded together are shaded the same color. A green border indicates that a port is connected to a network. A red border indicates a port is configured but is not connected to a network. I can click the Update Port View button to refresh the port status. I'll now click Next to save the new configuration settings. The Getting Started wizard date and time page displays. I don't need to make any changes to this page, so I'm going to click Next to review my settings. On the Confirm Settings and Reboot page, I can verify all my network configuration settings and then click Finish. I'll confirm the system reboot message. I'll need to wait for the system to fully restart before continuing with any additional system configuration. The reboot can take up to 30 minutes. In this video, I demonstrated how to configure network settings on a DXi system. These settings can be configured using the Getting Started wizard during the installation process or modified at any time after the installation using the configuration menu. For more information and detailed procedures, refer to the Installation and Configuration Guide or User's Guide for your respective DXi system.